Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Boujee and Unbothered. You have Sasha here.
And Kim.
And today we're going to talk about women, I think gender roles in the dating kind of landscape and women approaching men. And I'll tell you kind of what prompted this. So I watched this TED Talk. Kim and I actually both watched it. By a woman named Annie White, and the title of it was Why Miss Independent Can't Find Mr. Right. And so the whole premise of this TED Talk is very short, about 10 minutes. There's definitely, digestible watch, is women are basically wasting their time, essentially waiting around for Mr. Right to approach them. And instead of basically taking their dating destiny into their own hands and learning how to flirt first. So Annie definitely is kind of all about this flirt first mentality and, empowering women essentially to not feel as though they need to wait for the man to approach them, but that they should also find ways to approach men, flirt, and make their intentions known. I think, and without being, extra about it, but she gives a scenario in the TED Talk about a gym scenario. And I think this is actually how she even said she met her husband, which was she was at the gym, was admiring, was a handsome man. He was lifting weights in the weight section. And she went up to him and basically, introduced herself and said, "You look like you're in really good shape. Could you show me how to use, pointed to a machine?" And so brokered that introduction for herself. I hear the sigh. Brokered that introduction for herself. Didn't wait for him to come to her and spend weeks, smiling and glancing across the way, but decided to go and introduce herself. Now, me personally, I actually liked that concept. I didn't think that there was anything necessarily wrong with that, and I actually thought it was pretty cool. I have in the past myself approached men. Now, we can get into what I ended up getting out of that, but, that kind of shaped the future of whether I was going to approach men again. However, the concept to me, I actually, isn't problematic. I actually don't mind the concept. I know Kim has very strong thoughts. So Kim, I will let you jump in because you were sighing and breathing all hard before. So tell me.
I'm actually patiently waiting with my
tell me, what were your thoughts after you went through the TED Talk and you saw the video?
I completely disagree. I think that a woman can flirt first, but flirting first is different from approaching a man. I think that you can definitely give social cues. And there's nonverbal cues that you can have to demonstrate that you're interested. But ultimately, I think that step to approach someone should be going to the man. And I think, maybe I'm old school like that, but I feel like over time, the women have slowly picked up a lot of the things that men were doing in the past, and now it's come to the point where so now I can't even lean on a man to approach me to be interested in me. So now I have to do that too. So what's next? So then I have to propose to him. So what's next? So then I have to hold the door for him. So I got to do everything. What are you gonna do? And then if you take that role, then you can't get mad when he doesn't take the lead because you wearing the pants and the panties.
Oh, Lord. But you know what? I will say my experience in approaching men has kind of backed me back to this side, and I'm going to tell you why. While in theory, I like the idea of not necessarily feeling like you have to be in a waiting game or in a game of chicken with a man to have him come up to you. I do want to come back, Kim, to your point about nonverbal cues to indicate that you're interested. But in my past, I've definitely, I've approached guys. To me, I was definitely kind of like that bold girl that if I wanted it, I'm gonna go up to it. But what came of that was I ended up getting, as a result, more either timid men, which you're absolutely right. Like, when it came to, all right.
Not surprised.
Which you're absolutely right. When it came to navigating the rest of the dating encounter, it definitely, in my experience, it was an indicator of how the rest of the dating encounter went, which was, he wasn't really taking the initiative to set up the dates. He wasn't really taking the initiative to call and to initiate communication, which I've come to realize I want. Like, I do want a man who's going to take charge, and in terms of setting the tone for when we interact and, setting up the dates, calling me, all of those things. So I found that I was either getting the more timid men, or the guy honestly wasn't really that into me. I think that because gender roles have been so entrenched, at least for our generation, I don't know what the younger generation is doing and what they were taught, but I know from, being, 30s, how we were raised, I do believe we were still raised relatively traditionally, where men were encouraged that if you want something, you go get it. And women were raised to kind of receive that energy. So what translated into my experiences was I was either getting the more timid man, or I was approaching a man who, it was a compliment to them that I went up to them, but they weren't that interested, because if they were, they would have come up to me. So, for me, that's kind of what put me back into a position of, I will kind of just stay in the zone of, I would rather have the guy approach me than me approach them.
I believe in traditional courtship. I think that there's nothing wrong with the idea that obviously you can give a nonverbal cue, and it is up to the man to be able to take that first step. I should not have to do that. I'm not going to demonstrate interest. I'm not going, you should take those cues and be able to show me that you have the primal instinct to be able to action what you want. And so that is going to translate to other areas
cues that you're referring to.
I don't know. So let's take the gym scenario. So she didn't have to approach him. She obviously probably was playing eye tag, or she could have definitely moved closer to his vicinity. It could have been a situation where there's when someone's interested or not. I feel like I don't necessarily have the exhaustive list, and it's up to him to catch that and be like, well, obviously she's interested, so that gives me confidence to be able to approach her if he feels the same way.
Okay. I agree. I think eye contact, there's nothing wrong with, a smile or whatever. I think that you can, to me, that's even a bold move in and of itself. You can actually indicate by your facial expressions that you're interested. But I do agree. I think that, especially because we know guys were taught to lean into those primal instincts. If they're not, at least in my experience, it's usually for a reason.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So if I give you the impression that I'm interested and you still don't take that step, do I even want you? No, probably not.
So
there it is.
So, you touched on something that I actually would love to get more of Kim's thoughts on, which is the proposing to a man. Obviously, you're against that, but I just want to hear your initial thoughts on that, because I'm sure it would be hilarious.
Again, it's just where does it end? So, where do you want me to even take this? Because that can be a whole situation in and of itself. So I have to. So
Chrissy Jim Jones scenario.
I gotta go buy you a pinky ring or something. So what are we doing here? So I have to buy you a pinky ring, and I have to get on my knees, and I gotta ask you to take me? What? No, I'm not doing that.
No, I completely agree. I completely. I would actually love to hear from a woman that's in our age group and in their 30s that doesn't agree and that actually either practices or would practice kind of taking that lead role in the relationship from starting off with catalyzing the encounter all the way down to, if you're a woman that would propose to a man, we need to hear from you. We absolutely need to hear from you.
Absolutely. but you know what? Let me actually take a step back also, because it's not, I want to say, because these are my opinions and my beliefs, I don't judge a woman that does approach a man.
Agreed.
But I think that there's, to your point, in terms of your experience in doing that, there is a certain behavior that you're setting the precedent for. And if you're okay with that, then that's fine, because we're all different. So because I don't see the woman taking the first step and taking the lead and then taking a step back and switching roles. How you start is how you finish. So to me, if you're okay with not having the man take the initiative and driving the trajectory of the relationship, then that works for you. And hats off to you, because I don't have it in me. Because I will tell you that doesn't work for me at all, or my personality. Because I'm here, like, in every other aspect of my life, I have to take the lead and I have to do everything. So I feel like when it comes to a relationship, the man should give me a reprieve and he should be doing that for me. Otherwise, I don't need to be in a relationship, because I do that for myself anyway.
No, I actually completely agree with you. And I think it took even me a long time. And I wonder if there are people out here that feel that way too. Like, I think that given the fact that, we were raised at a very particular point in time where, we were moving away essentially from very traditional things, though they were not gone. Like, I think, for the most part, people who are around our age were likely still raised relatively traditionally, though, you might potentially, depending on your parents, have had exposure to different ways of thinking as well, knowing that, women can, take charge of certain things of their life. They can work, they can be educated. All of those things are not foreign concepts to us and things that we grew up understanding. So I think for me, as I was navigating the dating landscape, from early 20s through now, it definitely took a long time for me to realize, to actually realize that I'm more of a Kim than I thought, which was, to an extent, I do believe in gender roles. To an extent, and not even to an extent, I do want the man to lead the interaction. I had all of these expectations that I was not even really able to truly articulate, because I couldn't truly understand. And I had to learn that about myself too, because I'll tell you, I was that girl that was out here expecting to get like that Prince Charming treatment throughout the rest of the relationship, but then starting off like, okay, I'm going to go after what I want. And it was a very different, obviously what I got, like I just shared, was very different than what my expectations were. So I think it's also really important to, to Kim's point, like, definitely no judgment if that's who you are, if you're cool with taking the lead on all aspects of the relationship. But, if you're going to exercise this advice of this kind of flirt first mentality as it relates to really kind of taking the lead of starting something and approaching a man, just be aware of what that territory might come with.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, but you know what? I think it's interesting, though. I think it's interesting because we talk about the time period that we were raised and kind of thinking about the culture shift. With social media, I feel like a lot of people's abilities for social interactions are limited now, and have been definitely impacted by social media. So while we think it's like gender roles, but now it's just the way people are being raised now. They don't actually talk to each other. So is this concept of actually just approaching people dead? And that I have no idea. I'm just asking because I feel like when we think about it, people don't really talk anymore. Like that is a dying behavior.
You know what's really interesting? I'm going to take it a step further. And to be honest with you, y'all going to sit here and say that I'm flip-flopping. Don't judge me. But I actually don't know how this then would apply or how I would apply this in an online dating scenario. Because, like, taking, I think for the most part nowadays, a lot more and more people are meeting through apps than ever before. I think that maybe 10 years ago, it was still relatively novel and kind of like not the primary or even ideal way to meet somebody.
Right.
Fast forward to now, that's how most relationships that I know that are started are typically started. They're started on some kind of an app platform. So in that scenario, I've actually advised people not to necessarily feel like they have to get that message first, like because you're mapped by algorithms, and it's a completely different environment of interaction than in real life. So I don't think that you've had experience with apps or anything, but obviously you know the concept. Would you say that your thinking would apply to an online scenario, whether it's in social media or a dating app?
So I think what we were talking about is strictly for more offline engagement. I think online is different because it's not just I happen to see him at the gym. It is a contrived space that is controlled. It has algorithms, and there is some level of matching.
Right.
So I don't think that it's necessarily applicable in that scenario. I would say that I would have some more allowances for that two-way engagement, because that's pretty much what it is, right? So it's not it's not the wait and see approach.
Right. No, I totally align with that. I definitely align with that, because at that point, we all know what we're doing here. You have to essentially both agree that you're attracted to even, I think, be visible to each other to an extent. I don't know how they all work, but for the most part, I think most of them are like that. So I would agree that this kind of offline, those are the days. Those were the days when you actually met people in real life.
Feeling nostalgic.
Feeling very nostalgic for the early 2000s, when you'd actually meet somebody like in the old school way. But no, I would definitely agree that this is probably primarily an office. So maybe it doesn't translate for the younger generation, because I think most of them barely even talk to each other in real life anyway.
Yeah, I was like, this is a situation that is growing more rare as time goes on. And I also think that it's a sign of an older age if a man does approach you, because I don't think like a younger guy like that's in his early 20s is gonna do that. Does he even know how to really formulate sentences to talk to someone and have a conversation?
There are people who are like still within our generation that don't even talk on the phone. Actually, you one of them.
I was just about to say, raising my hand. Yes.
Yes. I don't even believe in conversation anymore.
I mean, I can have a conversation, but the difference is that I have a choice. Yeah, like I am choosing to stay in the SMS section, but it's not that I cannot. Well, I can have a discussion, but I think that people are fundamentally impaired in not being able to have conversations now.
I agree. As far as I'm concerned, throw this whole new man out. just throw them all out.
New man?
A new man, okay? Gone are the days where a man would approach you in real life. Gone are the days where a man knew how to like fix a sink real quick. Okay, I think we talked about Insecure before. Shout out to Lawrence and his attempt to fix it. Now he ain't fixed the thing. He made it worse. But shout out to Lawrence in the episode. He tried. Season 4, episode 3. He did try. I appreciated that. This is making me very reminiscent for the old school.
Well, on that note, what would be the Boujee girl takeaway here?
I think the Boujee girl. Go ahead.
I'm gonna be succinct. At a high level, how you start is how you finish. And I think you just need to be mindful of that. Whatever path you choose, if you start as a leader, you need to accept the fact that you will be leading for the rest of the relationship. And if you can't expect to start as a leader and then decide that you want to take a backseat after that. So that is my takeaway.
I had a similar takeaway. It was going to be longer, so I'm going to just leave it with Kim's way.
That's why I jumped in front of you.
Yeah, you jumped ahead. Rightfully so. Good thought. But no, we definitely are interested in hearing from you guys. Kim, do we have our email to shout out to folks, or where can we send the people to be a part of the conversation with us?
They can go online to our social media page. On IG, we're Boujee, BOUJEE_BU.
Okay. Definitely jump in, guys. We want to hear from those women who want to take the lead, and we want to hear your perspective. Until then, never forget the Unbothered principle. Stay moisturized, stay unbothered,
be unpredictable.
All right, y'all. We'll see you in the next episode.